All right, TikTok. So we just saw Human Talk. Was this Jessica? You were Human Talk professor, Master in the Great Escape, and we just saw the Burkina Faso live Zoom meeting on how to get Burkina Faso citizenship, and I got a lot of questions. So let's get right to it. Okay, Burkina Faso. It wasn't actually hosted by the Burkina Faso government itself. Hang on. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, this meeting was not hosted by Burkina Faso. It was hosted by an organization called ADDI or ADI.org. So this was not officially a Burkina Faso event, but it did have a ambassador of Burkina Faso there who represents the United States, who was there to talk about this event with us and answer our questions. So that's something to note, that this meeting was not being hosted by Burkina Faso itself. It's not being hosted by the Burkina Faso government. It's being hosted by a group called I'm reading their thing. It's hosted by a group called Our ADDI or ADDI, and the website is ouraddi.org or ouraddi.org. And you can get information about this Burkina Faso passage there. So it has a lot of questions there and it has a little bit of a fact page. But I'll tell you, after listening to them, I still have questions, and so does a lot of us in the audience. So let's quickly go through them. But let's start with the answers. So they said, first, we have this is an organization that is being done in partnership with Burkina Faso, but this is not Burkina Faso themselves. It's a separate, different thing. So something to consider here, what they are doing is they're creating a passage, or basically creating a push through to get further up in the line and move further up the door, and just being seen as being part of a bit of an organization affiliation. By signing up through these people through these applications right now. There's an application process that's open until the 28th of February, and you need to submit your application by then, and you can start the process, which will get you something towards like a visa, I believe, towards a visit in June. So let me go over right here on the website about process of applying for Burkina Faso's citizenship. So we're not spreading any misinformation. You must be registered and paid individual or student of ADDI member. So they want you to be a member first before you try to become a citizen. Membership is $365 per year, $1 per day for individual membership for US, Europe, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and China. Okay? For those living in Africa, South America, the Caribbean, the annual membership is $100 US. And yes, it is. They are only asking for US dollars. They did not mention pounds. They did not mention euros. And people did ask in the audience, and they were just like, it's dollars. So they're only accepting dollars. Okay? If you are a student, you must still register as a student member and pay the student membership fee of $50. And they did mention that they're going to be asking for proof of registration, things like a transcript or some kind of documentation proving that you are a recent student and enrolled in an official university of some kind. So, for example, I'm taking classes. I'm not going to say I'm a student. I even have a couple two student IDs, but I'm not going to pretend to be a student here. I'm just going to pay the full amount and let the actual enrolled students of quote unquote proper universities get their student membership. But that is something worth noting. Okay. They have the membership options. Okay. You must make your full payment by April 30th. We do urge you to take a DNA test through African ancestry. I'll get to that in just a second. If you've already taken it, you can still qualify. If you're adding a child and they're under 18, they need to be a paid up member. Children under 18 and as a student, when you register as a student or paid a student amount. If you're adding a spouse, you need to be a paid up member. And yes, you can add children who are under 18. So my question that was left that of many questions that were left unanswered is, what if you have a child who's not a student of a school, or you can't really prove that? So what if you have a homeschooled child? Like I have a child, he is in another country, he's in the Caribbean too, and I believe he's in school, but he is in school. I just don't have the paperwork and proof because it doesn't really matter. He's in Jamaica, and he's not coming up here now, right? But so can I get him? And also technically he's too young to be in school. He just turned 3. So what about the babies who are in daycare and the newborn babies? Do we just pay the $50? I'm fine with just making it a $50 student and youth under 18. 18, everybody under 18, regardless whether or not they're in school, and students as well. But I'm not here to tell you guys what to do. But that's a suggestion. The next one is evidence of so in order to be supporting your above requirements, they're going to want to see evidence of your paid up membership to ADI, evidence that you're a current student. So if you register as a student, you need to see your proof, copy of a DNA certificate, if you have one from African ancestry or another company. If you're adding children, add the birth certificates of the child or children. If adding a spouse, add marriage certificate, and of course, show proof that your married per spouse is a paid up member as well. A copy of your passport biometric page or other government issued ID, and a passport size photograph. So what you'll need to do is, with your application for citizenship, submit all of this to emailed to Olinka. Yeah, Olinka20 at addy.org, and it's on their website. I will share the other one, Taylor at addy.org. There's a couple different emails you're going to send all that to, and then there's a PDF page of the FAQ, which I have added to the course. So this is our Mastering the Art of the Great Escape course. You guys know that you guys have access to a folder, a constantly updating Google Drive folder, which will always give you access to links and information such as this, so you guys can always stay up to date. And another thing to know is that they're going to be having these Q&As every 2 weeks up until the end of this whole process. So I'm guessing that's going to be a couple more sessions since we're already in February. To be 1 in 2 weeks, and maybe one more after that. Okay, there is a little form. So the Burkina Faso has indicated that the ceremony conferring citizenship will happen in June 2025. We're waiting on the government to give us the exact date, but it will happen based upon the availability of the president and in June. So you must present to be in June 2025 to get citizenship. Okay, how? It tells you again, your paid membership, evidence of paid membership, certificate of DNA ancestry if you have one, government ID, and passport size photograph. What constitutes membership, which is you have regular membership, adult membership. You have to have paid your dues full by April 30th. Again, it's $365 for the quote unquote developed world, let's put it that way. I hate that term, but it's the easy way of saying US, Canada, Europe, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and China specifically. And then you've got $100 for those in Africa, South America, and the Caribbean. I'm guessing they just don't want people from Asia up in here. As far as diasporans, so it could be argued. Are there a lot of Black Russians? Are there Black Mongolians? Are there Black Japanese and Koreans that do not already have African ancestry and direct citizenship? So annual registration fee for fully paid up membership, right, is $50 for students. So what is going on with this whole applications thing and types of applications, and why are we asking for a blood test? So the government of Burkina Faso has asked ADI to spearhead a citizenship initiative that invites African diaspora to apply to be citizens of Burkina Faso. There will be 2 tiers. Tier 1, all those who trace their lineages to Burkina Faso through DNA, and tier 2, any Black diaspora. So you don't have to show your citizenship. You don't have to show a blood test to get in. You can just get in as a Black diasporan. I guess your passport picture and kind of evidence will help when they do their own thing. And then, of course, questions were coming up. So a lot of questions were coming up about what are the actual costs of citizenship itself. And it seems as though perhaps it is the case that the money that we're putting towards ADI membership will be going towards citizenship. I'm not guaranteeing this. This is my guess. These are questions that were left unanswered. But again, they're going to do another session, so you'll get more questions there. We did not get any questions answered about, is this going to be a good citizenship to have? Is the citizenship limiting? We did not learn, is there a longer process to get citizenship? So after June, so we just booked the month of June in Burkina Faso. Okay, there's going to be a ceremony. Great. Is there, again, any other fees associated with that? Is there a background check? Is there a criminal background check? Is there any paths to citizenship, paths to help with residency? So a good question I wrote down here is Ghana, Sierra Leone, Rwanda have launched similar programs. What lessons have we learned from their successes and failures? I'll take an AI question. How will Burkina Faso differentiate itself from Ghana's year of return and Sierra Leone's a D-Day-based citizenship initiative? I love GPT questions. They're so cool. Have any other African nations seen an actual influx of returnees, or has interest been mostly symbolic? That is a real question, but I don't think it's an ADDI, maybe an anti question, but definitely not for Burkina Faso. Yeah, this is one I have. Is there a step-by-step guide for interested individuals? What kind of support exists for new arrivals? How does one go around about buying land or property? Yes. Are there legal advisors or agencies that can help transitioning Americans to Burkinabe's lifestyle or other foreigners? Also, what about learning French? Everyone speaking English? Am I foolish? Do I not know something? Is Burkina Faso not a former French colony and a French-speaking country? Because the last I checked, it was. I don't know. Answer my questions, people, because I'm gonna Google this, of course. But I lived in France and met Burkina Faso people from France who speak French. And every person I met from Burkina Faso here speaks French and bad English. So what's cool? What else about the language ceremony? So is it mandatory to go to the ceremony to get the citizenship? Is this a one-time deal? Meaning, will this be done again next year or the year after the year after? Or is this a one-time way to get citizenship through this process? Can AU provide citizenship on continental level? It'd be great, how can the AU is basically how is the AU involved? Can the AU be involved? What's the AU involvement? And can this be done more streamlined through the AU, the African Union? I agree. So then they're talking about like security. Can we convince U.S. State Department to reduce the travel advisory down and help with security? What are you doing to fight, terrorism? What are you doing to fight the issues? And how long does it take to get the citizenship? Is this entire process guarantee citizenship? And are there additional citizenship costs? These are questions we did not get answered. A question I really had that also isn't being answered here is if this is being done on behalf of or with the help of or and there is a fact sheet. Of course, I'm going to, again, put that fact sheet in the folder for my peoples. To those of you guys, again, who are getting the Master the Great Escape full buying on Etsy, that is Master the Great Escape on Etsy, and you're going to find that. We're using the code 92% to get it for $9.20. But so you get all the links and all the downloads and information. I'm providing it for you, yes, but it doesn't help answer the question here of what about the what about again, what about background checks? What about blood tests, health checks? Is there any support for getting us to integrating into the culture? Are there any organizations that we should be working with? Are there any for-profits or nonprofits we should be working with? Is there anyone in the government themselves? If the government, and more importantly, this is my real question. If the government is outsourcing this labor, is outsourcing this work to some other to this group, meaning if this is a legitimate Burkina Faso government thing, which I have every reason to believe it is, why is it the case that the people who are doing this are volunteers? Why is it the case there's only like 2 or 3 people who are working here and they are volunteers? It's one thing that we got consistently from this meeting was that the people who are running this initiative, they call themselves volunteers. They say, we are volunteers. We are not getting paid. They reiterated it several times. Only 2 of us here, only 2 or 3 of us who are doing this full time. Everybody's a volunteer. Why are you asking us to do this for free? Why should this be free? And I agree that it should not be free to get it because citizenship it's expensive everywhere. U.S. citizenship's about $1,500 to $2,000. UK is £3,300. Most other countries in the quote unquote developed world are about $1,000 or more. So it's nothing wrong with paying $365 to get citizenship. But what we need to know is that the entire cost of citizenship? And then also, because we have to also fly there. So what we don't want is to submit this application, to fly there, and then be told that we need to do more than just fly there and have home accommodations, right? Also, it's February, and it'd be great to narrow down a week that we're going to do this ceremony, or maybe ceremonies, right? So those of us who have busy jobs, it's not just about money. Americans do not have time. Well, for the most part, Americans need more time to do things. So this is something that's a question I have. Another question is, so if it's not guaranteed that we're going to get citizenship through this way, what happens if we don't get citizenship through this way? Is there any other paths? Are there jobs? Are there visas? Are there education programs? My question too is why isn't the Burkina Faso government paying these people to do this? Why are they volunteers? And where does our 365 go if you guys are just volunteering and you're running a very standard mailing list? How do Americans such as myself and others who have skills and abilities lend ourselves to this effort so that we can get you guys up? Obviously you're gonna need a bigger Zoom membership. You guys need social media accounts. You need content going out on those social media accounts. You need, um, to make a proper not use that mailing list and send out emails every single week or every few days and have an online rolling application process and have ways to receive the money that's very obvious and straightforward. These are things that five sisters can put together for you. And you only need about one or two brothers to be the MC for your Zooms, and to keep people from wasting time because it took 23 minutes for the Zoom to get started, and at least 40 of the minutes of the 2.5 hour Zoom, it didn't end until 1:30. So at least 2.5 hours of that 2.5 hours, at least 45 minutes of that time was kind of just being chastised and berated by elders, which is real African stuff. I wasn't too upset by that, but it does get or like being or preaching. And this is where people need to, where it's I know it's a challenge on a cultural standpoint to deal with our elders sometimes and give them and to be able to just say, humbly, my your excellence, here's your time. You have this much time to speak and only this much time to speak. We need to move on so that these videos can be streamlined and done well. I have high hopes because this group has done this before, so I do not believe there's anything quote unquote fishy or scam-y going on here. What I just see is a different standard, and the standard is very and we just they need more support. They need more support, and I really need to figure out. They need a CEO over there. They need someone to go over there and figure out why Burkina Faso hasn't given them a few $100,000 to do this. Why are there not construction companies and developers who are going to build? Because I'm seeing if 1,000 Americans, if 1,000 Americans come across with their families, and for one, you've got $365,000, right? Because you have 365 less that paid $1,000. So one, you've got money, yes, but two, it would behoove. That's millions of dollars. Just 1,000 Americans determined to move over there is millions of dollars of money is going to go from the states to them, just to build houses. Right? Everyone has to build a house. You're probably going to have to build a house off the grid. You're going to have to build roads. You're going to need to build schools. You're going to need to build businesses and shops to support them, vehicles, gas stations, parking at your establishments. Like, I know what happens when Americans go live abroad. I've done it. I've lived abroad. I see what happens like when a bunch of Americans move into a bunch of, especially Americans, Canadians, UK, Brits, Australians, when they move to a little section, even in a small town like in Spain, it's going to be just a little bit different. We need resource, we need amenities, we're needy, resource sucking people, but in a good way that helps your economy. So I'm wondering why hasn't someone in that economy bankrolled this a little bit, right? Like that's why your master's degrees are so cheap or free, and you have graduate programs you can get for free. Is because there's a corporation that says I need that. So where is the construction companies, the developers, the plumbers? Is there one or two or three of them that are legit that have done this before that can take this on and will help sponsor this organization that are going to sponsor this group, Adi, to do this? Because another thing that was brought up, which was very smart, was can we give benefits or can we give reduced rates or can we have a pipeline program for like veterans? For people who want to join the military, veterans who have military experience, people who are willing to enlist in Burkina Faso's military. There are people who are willing to do all sorts of, who people have like, can we have a speed process or can people who have advanced degrees jump the line? people who are master's degrees, PhDs, doctors, lawyers, scientists, engineers, people who are going to be able to help develop Burkina Faso, people who are businesses. Is there a merchant front door, expressway? It's great if everybody gets an expressway in, but I'll freely admit, and I say it's like, even if I'm not considered sufficient, and as an AI consultant, right, I get fine if I'm not considered sufficient, which is insane. Then I would still be fine with someone in the military getting in ahead of me, someone who's an actual engineer, someone who's done more physical engineering jobs, people who've done, let's say, construction, getting in ahead of me, because they can actually build and develop that space. I'm fine with a college professor with a PhD in something who's written some books getting in ahead. Then there were questions on, are you going to help people with disabilities? What's the support for people who have disabilities, and what are we going to do for them? So here's what I'm doing about this. So unfortunately, my little AI chatbot was not allowed to join and take notes and record. I was really disappointed to find that out. I found that out too late, and it was not posted onto YouTube. So aside from the fact that I'm going to reach out to these people and see if I can help and support them in any kind of way, the next time that they go live, I'm going to make sure I at least like screen record the entire situation and make it available. And for those of you who are watching this on TikTok, thank you for tuning in. This is probably like a multi-part series at this point, unless I can edit this really nicely. So make sure you guys follow me, and if you see me sharing the live. When I shared this live, it got throttled, and they refused to share it with anybody unless I shared it myself. They took it off the FYP and everything because they said I was showing unoriginal content, even though most of the screen was me. It wasn't enough, right? So just keep that in mind, that I am going to be doing my best to share. I may just have to next time show my face instead or something, but I will try to get this recorded and available. I am also training some models on this. I'm training some notebooks, Notebook LM notebooks on this. So I'm going to be sharing those notebooks with you guys and making them available as much as I can to the public, or to be viewed, or just to whomever it's definitely going to put a link to it in this Master the Great Escape guide that you guys can get. And remember, you can get the Master the Great Escape guide is on Etsy, and it's just called Master the Great Escape, and I will put the links to it. So it'll be on the screen or in somewhere, the bio or something like that. So for those of you guys who are registered for my class, I'm going to do an official registration link, since our first official class is coming up Tuesday at 6 p.m. And I want to make sure everybody can get in and get on board. And I will do as well is I will probably put those classes on Zoom. It's okay. So for those who want to watch, I'll put them on TikTok and I'll put them on Zoom. And TikTok will be for those who can see and watch for free. The people on Zoom will be prioritized when it comes to questions as well. And then you'll have more information that'll be fed to my bots. So in order to get access to my bots, you're going to have to also have got the course materials. So the course materials, and again, I'm trying to make as much as I can free to everybody. I get like 1,000 Human Talk classes. But if you're trying to really get out and you're really serious, you're going to have to invest a couple bucks here and there. I'm trying to make myself the one-stop shop for you guys, so you guys can hopefully feel comfortable contributing. And if you don't want to, that's just fine. I'll teach you guys everything I can just from watching this content. Okay? So I love you all. I thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all can still hear me. I thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to do more videos, information about this, and share data as I go. And of course, answer your questions. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.